The extraction mission had gone almost too well. Sergeant Thomas Reed moved carefully through the shattered remains of the wrack's forward outpost, his boots crunching over debris as embers still floated in the air. Around him advanced 9 alien squad mates, weapons humming softly, still warm from recent use. The objective had been routine: neutralize the weapons cache, remove resistance, and evacuate. Another operation in the 73rd year of an endless war. Advance formation. Commander Zelthos clicked through the translator, his 4 eyes sweeping the ruins. Transport inbound in 10. Thomas stayed at the rear, as usual. Human eyesight caught subtleties others missed, the slight movement of dust, the irregular shadows. That was when he noticed it. Beneath a collapsed support beam lay a small shape, barely visible, barely alive. A Vrax cub. No older than 5 or 6 by human standards. Its grayscale chest rose and fell in shallow, uneven breaths. Contact. Rear position, Thomas said sharply. Corporal Venac spun, plasma rifle already lifting, targeting reticle locking instantly. Clear shot. Stand down. Thomas stepped directly into the line of fire. A wave of confusion rippled through the squad's translators. Zelthos turned. Reed, move aside. That is Vrax. That's a child, Thomas replied. Not a combatant. It is a future enemy. Protocol. Protocol be damned. Thomas knelt beside the cub, quickly assessing the injuries. Broken ribs. Severe dehydration. Deep lacerations across the torso. Bad, but survivable with care. He stripped off his pack and began assembling a makeshift stretcher from scrap plating. I'm taking him with us. The silence that followed was absolute. He will die otherwise, Thomas continued, lifting the small, trembling body. I'm not leaving him here. You will face court-martial, Zelthos said quietly. Thomas met his gaze. I understand. The return journey to the quantum sphere passed without a word, broken only by the cub's labored breathing. The medbay refused them. Treating enemy wounded was one thing, smuggling one aboard was another. So Thomas took the child to his quarters, sealed the door, and began. For 7 days, while charges were prepared against him, Thomas became something he hadn't been in decades of war, a caretaker. He cleaned wounds with hands that had ended countless lives. He crushed nutrient rations into something the cub could swallow. Through fevered nights, the child cried out in a language Thomas didn't understand, but the emotions were unmistakable. Fear. Pain. Home. By the 3rd day, the cub could sit upright without collapsing. By the 5th, he accepted solid food. By the 7th, the wounds had closed into pale scars beneath gray scales. Thomas had started thinking of him as Kit, though he never said the name aloud. The morning of the tribunal arrived quietly. Thomas dressed in formal uniform, straightened the sparse room, and carefully tended to Kit, combing the head spines, replacing bandages, making sure he looked as strong as possible. Whatever judgment awaited him, Thomas had no regrets. He never reached the courtroom. At exactly 0800 hours, the ship screamed with alarms. Thomas rushed to the viewport. Kit clutched his leg, trembling. Beyond the hull, space was black with ships, hundreds of them. A full Vrax armada. All hands to battle stations, the intercom blared. The quantum sphere was a frigate, not built for this. They would be destroyed within minutes. But the Vrax did not fire. Instead, a single vessel detached from the formation, its hull surrounded by a glowing white plasma field, the universal signal for parley. Commander Zelthos' voice echoed across the ship, unsteady. They request permission to dock. They are asking for Sergeant Reed. The next words hit harder. They are offering an exchange. 10,000 Union prisoners. Thomas looked down at Kit. The cub's eyes were wide, fixed on the approaching ship. Recognition flashed across his features. The markings, Zelthos continued slowly. They belonged to the High Chieftain's bloodline. The docking bay filled with armed guards as Thomas arrived, Kit walking beside him on unsteady legs. The shuttle doors opened, and two massive wracks emerged, towering, scarred, radiating authority. The female saw Kit. The sound she made needed no translation. Kit broke free and ran. The reunion was raw and desperate, claws gripping, foreheads pressed together, breath shaking. The mother examined every healed wound, every scar, her hands trembling as relief overtook fury. Only then did she turn to Thomas. The entire bay held its breath. She approached him, close enough to kill him effortlessly. Instead, she lowered herself and pressed her forehead to the deck at his feet. Her mate followed. "We came prepared for war," her translated voice echoed. "We came to reclaim our son, alive or dead. We came ready to burn your ship from the void." Tears streaked down eyes that had ordered the deaths of millions. "But he lives. He lives," the chieftain repeated, her voice breaking. "He is whole. His pain was eased. His life preserved." She rose, turning so all could hear her words. "You were his enemy. Yet you showed mercy. You chose care over hatred. You gave him something we lost long ago." She touched her translator, her posture straightening with authority. "By my right as High Chieftain of the Vrax Confederacy, I declare this war ended." The bay erupted into stunned silence. "All Union prisoners will be released immediately. Negotiations for lasting peace will begin at once." Her gaze returned to Thomas. "We will remember that one human valued a single life above his own future. Above his freedom." She paused, then spoke the words that echoed far beyond the docking bay. "Humanity is not a species. It is a choice." The war that had consumed generations ended with a single decision made in the ruins of a battlefield. 6 months later, Thomas stood beneath alien suns on Vrax Prime at the dedication of the Peace Garden. Crystal flowers reflected light in shifting colors as children, human and Vrax, played together among the pathways. Kit laughed as he ran beside them. The tribunal against Thomas had quietly vanished. No announcement. No apology. Just silence, and freedom. Across the Galactic Union, first contact protocols were rewritten. New clauses were added. Concepts once dismissed as weakness were now considered essential. Compassion. Mercy. Restraint. Thomas watched Kit disappear into the crowd, then felt a familiar weight lift from his chest. The war was over, not because of superior firepower, but because someone had remembered what it meant to care. In the end, humanity wasn't the absence of fear. It was the refusal to let fear decide who you become. Not the lack of anger, but the strength to act beyond it. One child became a bridge. One act of mercy became a treaty. And one human choice reminded an entire galaxy that even in the darkest wars, some lights should never be allowed to go out, no matter how different they look.